Welcome everybody to our Council of Governors meeting for Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's meeting. Good to see you all. I hope you all had a great Easter. So if we can get started, firstly apologies. We have apologies from Brian Swallow, Stuart McKinnon-Evans, Hanif Malik, Tom Nicklin. I think we've got Linda here, haven't we? I've seen Linda already. Yes, Linda's here. And also, I think that's it, isn't it? Ruth Marsden, Brian Swallow, Stuart McKinnon-Evans, and Hanif Malik and Tom Nicklin. Those are the apologies. Are there any other apologies that I might have missed? I don't think so. I think that's it.
Councillor Abraham.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Abraham. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So moving on, are there any changes to the declaration of interest? If there are, could you please let Jenny Jones know and she'll update those. And if there's anything on the agenda which is causes a conflict of interest, if you can alert me to that and maybe remove yourself for that item. Has anybody got any difficulties on that front?
Nope.
No? Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we move on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of January. Are everybody happy with the minutes of that meeting as a correct record? Yes, thank you very much. Are there any matters arising from the minutes or from the action log that colleagues would like to raise? I've got Will, I think came up first there, and then Doff. Will.
The original issues around governance and assurance being followed up by a meeting with governors. And that's for the tracker or for the minutes.
Could you turn up your volume a little bit, Will?
Sorry.
Thank you. Come closer. That's better. Could you just say that again? And could you just what's the question?
So it wasn't a question, it was addition to the minutes that the seeking assurance around governance issues is being followed up with seeking assurance through the NEDs, and a meeting is being arranged, but has not yet been arranged.
Thank you. I didn't quite pick that up a bit before, so thank you. Yeah, the meeting's being arranged, isn't it, to follow up some of those issues that you've raised. Great. Okay, thank you for that. Dov.
My point is on page 4 with regard to the item I raised at the meeting about the social values report. The social values report, as stated in these minutes, did go to the January board meeting. I would be really pleased if it was possible to circulate the actual report to governors, because having looked at it, it provides a lot of detail that we haven't received as part of our governance papers. And I think as a separate circulation, it would add to information the governors have had. And it looks like a really good publication of how the social value within the trust is working.
Okay, thanks. Right. Did you not get it in your board pack, Dov?
No.
Okay.
No, it was only in the trust papers.
All right.
It's not in the governor papers.
No, I meant, didn't you get it in the trust papers as part of that?
Yes, but I've had to dig for it.
Okay. All right. We'll take that back to Katie to see if we can sort that out. But obviously, the trust papers are there, and you get them because we want you to see, have a version of what.
But given the number of pages there are, I think this is an important one. It would be good to highlight for the governors.
Okay, let's take that away. As an action, we can recirculate that for everybody's attention. So thanks for that, Dov. Just to say on the action log, I think actually everything is pretty clear on there that we have done. You all received, because it was asked for before, the briefing note on eating disorders that Lynn Parkinson put together and sent round, which I think was helpful, and also it was concise. It was just a couple of pages. So I hope that's helpful for those who are particularly interested in that area. Just to say, I did, based on last time, just restructure some of the agenda based on discussions we had about moving up the agenda, particularly the performance update and the finance report, and tweaked in that way. And also I think it's in my choice, but I took away some comments made about having a face-to-face meeting, and you'll be aware that the July Council of Governors meeting will be face-to-face, and I hope everyone will make every effort to attend. So we have, moving on then, if there's nothing else, and I can't see any other hands there.
Tony
Nope.
Douglas has got his hand up, Chair.
Oh, sorry, thank you, Tony.
Karen, just to point the July meeting, it's sort of 2 or 3 days after the school holidays start. Is that a good time for a face-to-face meeting? Or would it not be better later in the year? I don't know what the other governors think. Just an idea.
Well, I think it was people wanting to have face-to-face, and also because it's lighter and warmer and therefore easy for travelling as well. Look, I don't think there's any necessary good time for this. Okay. I mean, but I think people would prefer to have that rather than when the clocks go back and it's dark again and what have you. So, I haven't had anyone. If anyone wants to pass on to me if they've got any real objections to that, but I think hopefully for most people they'll be able to attend. But there's never a good time for that. If we'd had it in April, it'd probably hit the Easter holidays as well. So it's difficult on that one. Let me know out of the meeting if anybody else has got some particular concerns about that. But I think it's very difficult to please everybody all the time on these things, I think. Okay, right. Let's move on then to our staff story today. And we have Sharon Tootle. Sharon is with us. Welcome, Sharon. She's going to talk about her role as an occupational therapist at Humber and a bit about her journey to what she's doing today. So Sharon, you're very welcome. Pleased to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and hello to everybody. It's nice to see so many faces. Okay, today I'm just going to share my story with you, and I've just got some pointers that I'm going to read off, and then I'd like to show you a little video clip about my role, if that's okay. Okay, so I say my name's Sharon Tootle, and I'm an AHP with the Trust. By an AHP, what we mean is an allied health professional. We're a diverse group of clinicians who deliver high quality care to patients and clients across a wide range of care pathways and in a variety of different settings. So working at Humber, we've currently got 7 of the 14 allied healthcare professionals who work across the Trust, and this is increasing all the time. And that includes physios, speech and language therapists, drama and art therapists, paramedics, dietitians and occupational therapists. And today I'm proud to say I'm an occupational therapist, and I'd like to just show you a clip of what an OT is. See if I can bring that up. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yep. So this is just going to show you what an occupational therapist is, and it sums it up nicely.
If anyone needs Gaviscon.
I know, I'm just thinking, I'm making sure I've got the right one here. I'll just double check that. Apologies.
I thought the superheroes one in the first one, the Immortals, looks pretty cool as well.
Let's have a look. Where's it gone? Apologies, it's not wanting to share. Let's try it once more. If not, I'll leave that one.
Can anyone else sort it out for you while you want to carry on speaking, Sharon?
Yeah, it's on there now. Can you all see that one? Sorry about that.
Yep.
All right.
I don't know if it's just me.
No,
We haven't got any sound.
It's not going to do it. I'll go back to my script. Apologies about that.
Can I
Okay,
suggest something? Can I suggest something, Sharon? If
Yeah.
you've got a link and you send it to Katie at the board support unit, we'll circulate it around all the governors.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very
Sure,
much.
no
for that.
problem.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go back to my story as an occupational therapist. So basically, I went into occupational therapy a bit later on in life. I went back to university at the age of 29 years and I decided to become an occupational therapist. I was previously in a managerial role in retail and I had quite a few years of previous care experience. I wanted to pursue my career back in the caring field. Having a disabled brother with cerebral palsy, autism and learning disabilities, OT is very much what I knew. So in 2009, I attended York St John University and I did a BHSE Honours 3-year degree, and this led on to my career. I've worked most of my career with NLAG, which is the Northern Lincolnshire and Gould Trust, and I was there from 2009 to 2021. Now, most of my career was within the physical setting. I've gained experience within the following areas: acute elderly medical care, orthopaedics, surgery, neurology and brain injury. Most of my time was as a Band 6 OT on an acute elderly and rehabilitation ward. I gained valuable experience with a range of neurological conditions, and this developed my skills in the area of cognition and working with patients to develop purposeful goals regardless of occupational dysfunction. Now, one of my main passions has always been development of staff of different bandings and different professions and service improvement, and it's all about developing the patient's journey and the service. I believe we've all got a role to play, and actually by coming together as an MDT we can really strengthen that patient's journey and develop the service. Now, I returned to NLAG after a year on maternity leave after having my daughter later in life. To be honest, this changed me as a person. It made me realise how everyone is somebody's family member or friend, and it's always important to remember this. And also what a privileged position I'm in. There's a lot of people out there who has nobody to speak for them and are quite vulnerable. And actually, every day I keep this in mind, and it's a very important part of my role. It was very difficult returning to work after having a year off with my daughter. I actually returned to the ward at the height of COVID, and how our ward was part of the rehabilitation post-COVID ward. So we looked after people from intensive care. This was a real eye-opener when you're with loved ones, when visitors couldn't visit. And again, this was a big eye-opener for me, and it made me really think about my career. I've always wanted to get into mental health, and I've always been against barriers because everybody sees my experience as physical. Now, I was really lucky to get a post with Humber in 2021, and I got to say that this is the best thing that I've ever done, and actually I wish I'd done it sooner. My previous manager was Sam Jacks-Newton, and she was the operations manager for a while at NLAG. She's now working as AHP lead for Humber. Sam sent an email around about an opportunity, and this got me thinking. I went for a post for the community mental health team, older people service at Holton Price, Beverley and Goole, and I was successfully recruited as a specialist OT. Now, this was my first role within Humber, and the focus at this point was to really establish the role of OT within the service, because it'd gone through quite a lot of major organisational changes. This was quite a valuable learning curve, especially due to joining in the virtual world of COVID. I basically began my career with Humber on a screen, when previously I went to work every day on a ward as normal with PPE. Now, the main role was about my role of occupational therapy and looking at purposeful activity for our service group. A lot of things that we do is about the medical care. However, this is about what is important for people. You know, what is their passions, what are their goals? So a lot of it was providing assessment and intervention to patients, as it is now, with both functional and organic conditions. Support for families have been very important. Again, not to keep going back to COVID, but there's been a lack of tertiary care out there. There's been increasing demands with social care, which has led to increase of carers' stress, and we needed to come together as a team to build this bridge. Again, this was a pivotal moment where I realised that my physical experience actually really helped me in my role. As an older people service, we know people are living longer and have comorbidities. I soon learned about the care coordination role and developed my skills with both functional and organic conditions. My team's become like a work family. My confidence has really developed in time at Humber to say I've only been here 2 years. I'm amazed by all the training I was offered at Humber and how approachable senior management were and the executive team have been. I was so surprised when executive management joined us on Teams. I did the Proud course to be greeted by Michelle asking for valuable feedback. Again, I think that speaks volumes. The Proud course and the development I've had has really led me on to questioning myself, and I was aware that a lot of the leadership posts has been nurses. That's nothing to do with the trust, that's the ratio of nursing staff to the AHP staff. I realised within my team, MDT working is fundamental to our role. The medical model is so important. However, it's clear to see not everyone needs medication, and the social model is fundamental to treatment and intervention. This has been more evident since COVID, as social isolation has had a major effect on our client group, and we've seen an increase in referrals. Holistic care is where it is at, and that is my passion within OT. The team I worked with advertised a clinical lead post to work alongside the team leaders post, and this was something new that had just come about. Now this had me thinking. I thought, well, if I really want to change something and if I really want to make it more holistic, well, what I need to do is I need to go forward for this post. And I decided to ask Ali Couch, my lead, and my team leader, Catherine Pardo, and say, I am an AHP, but I really feel like I'm going to go for this. And with that, I did. I attended the interview, and unfortunately I was unsuccessful in the post. However, I received some really valuable feedback. The feedback I got was that I needed a bit more development and leadership experience, but actually they wanted to invest in me. To be honest, I thought this was just something that had been said, but true to Ali's word, she emailed me with an opportunity to do a secondment, and that led to me being the clinical lead of Halton Price and Beverley and Gould for 3 months. Alongside this, I went on the Proud course. Now this has got to be one of the most inspiring courses I've ever been on, and I really credit the trust and the course leaders for enabling me to do this, because it's made me self-reflect and become aware of my abilities and skills. And again, this as my confidence has grown, it made me also realise I've got a passion for OT, and actually in the clinical lead post, I didn't want to lose that, but I wanted to strengthen that and work together as a team. I've been involved in quite a few opportunities where I've worked with MDT members from other trusts, and one of the pieces of work I did is working with a speech and language therapist. In my previous role, I worked very closely with speech and language therapists. Often speech and language therapists and occupational therapists are the professions that people don't always know about. We did quite a lot of work with a communication and activity passport for some of our clients in care homes. And again, I put this to my lead manager, and unbeknown to me, she put me forward for a Band 6 to 7 development course, which I also attended. Yet another training course, which has really fast-tracked me. I've been involved in a lot of service development plans, and at the moment we're involved in the Older People's Mental Health Service 5-year plan. Now this is all about developing the organic and functional pathway. We're looking at dementia care, we're looking at functional care, and we're looking at a care home pathway. This is such an opportunity for the Older People Service, and I can see how we are just moving forwards in great strength. One of my roles I'm really keen to develop our dementia pathway, and I contacted the University of Bradford and I asked Humber for some funding through CPD monies, and we've secured some funding, and we're now rolling out a really big piece of training on dementia care, and the aim is to have dementia ambassadors in our service and really show Humber what we're about. Another thing that I'm involved in at the moment is the functional care pathway, and we're literally doing training cards for all our MDT members, regardless of banding. And this is something where people can develop within our service, and they've got the training development needs all on different cards, and they can go through that development pathway, just like I've been given the opportunity. I am involved in a lot of pathways at the moment, and we're looking at outcome measures because we really need to sell our service and Humber as a whole, because I feel going from a different trust to this trust, we have got a really good trust here, and I thoroughly enjoy my job. I am now the advanced OT for the Older People Service, and I can honestly say I thoroughly love my role. I work with some really good people, really good staff, and every day I love coming to work, basically. I could actually, to be honest, talk to you for quite a long time. But yeah, so thank you to Humber, and I just think the future's rosy for the Older People Service and the other services in the whole. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and thanks for your enthusiasm, and you know, it's just so interesting knowing the breadth of your work actually in terms of what you do. So we'll get that link sent round if we can connect up about that to everybody, because I think it would be great for people to see that too. Over to Councillor Governors. Any questions or comments for Sharon about her work? I see any hands up. Doff. Do you want to come off mute, Doff, please?
It was really, really exciting to hear what you had to say, Sharon. And it's just so rewarding to know that the Trust has been able to support people in the way that it's been able to support you. And I'm just so delighted to hear about it. Thank you for spending the time to come and talk to us.
No, thank you for having me as well. And like I say, it is the training I've had in 2 years has been unbelievable, but thank you.
Thanks, Doff. Comments shared by many, I'm sure, on the call today. Mike.
Thanks, Sharon. Your enthusiasm was really infectious. I enjoyed that immensely. And it's so important teaching my grandma to suck eggs that for our patient group, occupational therapy is something that is really a big part of the recovery and the rehabilitation. So thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the work that you do.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Lynn?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. There's so much there I could pick up. You squeezed a lot into that presentation. It was fantastic. Thank you. Sharon, I just wanted to pick up on those opportunities that you referred to. So as you say, we've invested significantly in improving those across the AHP structure, but also in the more general clinical lead structure. So I just wanted to encourage you, Sharon, there are many opportunities, and it's great that you're interested in all of those, but very happy to have a chat with you about those future opportunities, either within the area that you're in now or more widely in the organisation, because you're clearly very enthusiastic and motivated, which is great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, because one of my main aims as well is to bridge the gap between AHPs and the wider service, because we are so holistic and we've got so many skills, and if we can get our patients on board, there's so much that we can do. And I do think post-COVID is the time to shine, and we've got a lot of charities out there where I'm really keen to do some joint networking with.
And we have got AHPs into those more general clinical leads posts, Sharon. We've got some great examples, so I can put you in touch with those folk too.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. Michelle.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Thanks for your time. And I've just written in the chat box, just thanks for all that you do as well, both on you, not just presenting today, but just in making a difference to patients, because that's what it's all about. So thank you for that. And it is so important to link in the work that you're doing with the wider trust. It's good to get those connectivities as well. But thank you for the feedback on Proud as well, because obviously we have invested significant amount of money in the programme. So I know that I go to the reflective practice sessions, but it's good to get that reinforced, as it were, that actually it is really a successful programme. What I have said to the team is what next, not just for individuals, but what next after the leadership programme. So it might be something that you maybe want to drop me a few lines on, or just give me your thoughts on, because obviously we've invested a lot in the leadership part of Proud, and Proud is a wider scheme, as you know, we've mentioned with coaching, mentorship, etc. So if there's anything that you can think of, then please let me know. But for me, is there something that follows the leadership cohort work that we're doing? So I just appreciate your thoughts on that. Maybe not now, but later.
Yeah, no, that's it. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for when you do attend that training as well, because you've got a visual presence. And I think that's really important for staff to have as well, of all of you. So thank you. I certainly will do.
Thank you, Sharon, very much. So I don't know if this is possible, but I'm just going to leave it for comms to follow up. I think it'd be really great if we could just clip your contribution today to the Council of Governors and maybe use that to use elsewhere in terms of comms for other staff to see, or for other people to hear about your story as well. I think it was just, you were so eloquent and so enthusiastic. It would be great if we could just use your presentation today somewhere else as well. I don't know if that's technically possible, but I'm sure somebody brighter than me on that could possibly work that out. Yeah. Oh, actually, Alex is giving me a thumbs up there. He can do that. So you're going to be made a superstar, Sharon.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. No,
right.
We'll certainly get the word out there for AHPs and all the clinical lead and all the staff.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, you just put your hand up.
Yeah, I thought I'd put it up a while ago, actually.
Oh, sorry, no, it didn't come up. Sorry, it didn't come up.
Hey, no, it's my fault. No. Sharon, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your presentation. And it's really good to hear that you're grabbing every opportunity that you can to extend your career and basically take advantage of the trust being so good at wanting to encourage people to train and move forward. So keep on doing that, love.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, John. Yeah, thank you. I'm just lucky to go to a trust where it's thrown at you.
Hey, no. Hey, Sharon, it's the other way around. They're lucky to have you.
Oh,
thank you, John.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Sharon, thank you. Thank you for your time. Hopefully I'll see you at work, at some working activity that you're on, some of the things you've described today. But thanks so much.
Lovely. All right.
Pleasure.
Take care, everybody, and thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Brilliant. So moving on then to item 6, Chair's report. I've got just one thing I just wanted to say at the start. I just want to all governors to just flag that I appreciate that you've been probably overloaded with more emails than is usual, which may be saying something. But we're at that time of the year where there's a whole load of things going on, the NED appraisals, there's various terms of reference and everything happening. And unfortunately, for a number of those things, we can't just put them all in one email because they have to sit on their own. So I apologise for the volume that are coming through. If anybody has any difficulties at all, get in touch with Katie and we can support you and help sort some of that out. And if there's any technical problems, you can always come into the trust as well, and we'll support you there too. So that's my apology. The other thing I just wanted to add is that Tim and Stella did a visit yesterday to Town and Court, to the psychosis service there for people in Hull and East Riding. So I just wanted to say that because they're not included on the visits on my report, and it'll get minuted and be recorded there too. So opening up then, I'm not going to go through the whole Chair's report. Are there any comments or questions on my report, John?
Well, no, I just wanted to jump on what he said about all the emails, actually. And really, I just want to encourage all the governors to give that feedback on the NEDs and how they're going on. I believe I've sent all mine in now. Hopefully, Katie's got them by now. But I just want to encourage everybody to give that feedback because it's important.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on my report? Any hands up? No? Okay, thank you very much. I hope you're finding a written report helpful. We'll move on to Michelle, your report, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. You'll have a chance to read my report, so I'll just pick out some headlines. We'll pick up later the operational pressures that obviously continue. The strikes haven't affected the organisation too much. I mean, obviously it's affected the system, which obviously we're part of, but certainly thanks to Lynn and the operations team particularly for the planning in relationship to the strikes, and obviously we're planning for further action over the next few weeks. But the particular hotspot was obviously after the Easter period with the junior doctors' strike. So we'll keep you informed of that, but I'm sure Lynn will pick that up when I hand over to Lynn shortly. Just suffice to say that we have actually in the last couple of weeks particularly had a bit of an upturn in COVID positive patients alongside staff, but mainly patients as well, which we're dealing with very well. But it's just interesting to know that it's still around, it's still out there. So obviously we continue to develop our infection prevention control guidance, and we keep that updated on the back of all the latest information that's coming out, but just be aware of that. I've put in there a couple of things that are slightly different because we do talk about sustainability in relationship to the green agenda, but we've been fortunate, we've been allocated as an organisation 300 trees to plant, which is important alongside all the other work that we're doing. So we're going to plant those across the organisation, and we planted the first one just around the Humber Centre playing field. So please have a look at those and get involved. I think there was a date in April that's passed now, but we'll be doing future dates to plant as well. So be interesting to have people's representation there. There's a couple of sections in the report that we've picked out on patient and service user engagement because it's important. We often have Manda here regularly to give us a bit of an update, but we're doing quite a lot of things, but we're doing some innovative things now, not just within the organisation, but supporting the system with as well, which is important. And I've picked out the King's Fund work there for your information. Great, we're having some national visits because obviously we've got the recognition as an organisation of positive practice. Yes, we've still got things to do and we're still continuing to work through our various challenges and pressures that we've got in as an organisation, but it's good to see that we're getting recognised for a lot of the positive work, be it from the work with the police. We've done quite a few reports this time on the police, and you hear a lot more around that over the next few months, and that's our work with Right Care, Right Person. But the visits that we've had are from the CQC, with the Director of Mental Health came to have a look at what we were doing. And we've got a couple of national visits coming up, one tomorrow from Julian Hartley, who's the NHS Providers Chief Executive, and Tom Carhill, who's the Learning Disabilities Lead Director. So some really positive stuff. And I was speaking to Claire Murdoch yesterday, the Director of Mental Health, and she will be coming to see us shortly. So that's really positive because it helps one share practice, but also for us to make sure that we're up to speed, which we know we are. Great to see that we've been shortlisted in the Student Nursing award. So it's really important for staff to get the recognition for the work that they're doing as well. It also is helpful for recruitment and retention. But we've been categorised in the category of placements of the year. So really quite interesting. There's quite a bit around the system, which I'll leave you to read about. But I've also pulled up the report, the communications work. The team are doing some fantastic work, both reviewing the communications that we've got with our staff, but also in developing a continued suite of resources that build on our branding. And as you'll see, we've all got the same backgrounds on, which is exceptionally positive, and we all continue to need to do that, including the governors. But also the other work that we're doing around tools and the new publications. We've publicised a lot more now, newsletters and stakeholder letters, which some of you have contributed to, which is fantastic, but also in a similar sort of branding style, which we wanted because it's that community, because we're developing our Being Humber community, etc. One of the things that is in there, but we're going to do a bit of a bigger launch once the elections have finished, and that's around our new leave policy, because we're quite proud of we're very proud actually of our new leave policy, because it is probably the most inclusive leave policy across all NHS providers, and this is not just around leave for carers, leave for other bereavement processes, but particularly the work that we're doing with Tommy, and this is about fertility, early child loss, etc. So it's all in the report, but we'll do more on that later. But that is really cutting edge things, and again, that's about keeping to our principles of staff being at the heart of what we do, supporting excellent patient care. Lots on there around planning, which no doubt we will touch on as we go through the meeting, because we're right in the heart of planning season at the moment. Lots of work going on around digital and our digital aspirant status, and then there's the usual health start report at the bottom. I'm losing my voice today, Chair, so I'll stop there.
Can I just, before I take Lynn in, I think it's a real good opportunity, because Michelle obviously cited a number of ways in which the trust has been recognised for its outstanding work. Well, our Chief Executive, Michelle Moran, has also been acclaimed as one of the top 50 Chief Executive Officers in the NHS by the Health Service Journal recently. And we're all really proud of that, because I mean, I think it's just an acclamation for Michelle's work here, and I think reflects on her career, but it really reflects well on our trust as well. It's one for the team as well as one for Michelle. So can we record that, please, in the minutes? And I hope I'm seeing a few claps going up there, old style clapping as well as raising a hand. We're very proud of you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. It's a team effort, but thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'll hand over to Lynn, and then just for the COVID report, if that's okay, and then we'll do any questions.
That's fine. And I see you, Tim. You've got your hand up. I'll come to you shortly. Lynn.
Yes, just to add briefly to what Michelle's already set out. Obviously, system pressures have remained high, particularly across the acute hospitals and across the local authorities still, although pressures have reduced a touch since I last gave an update here. But obviously, we have had the position with the industrial action that Michelle's already touched on. Thankfully, we are now at the end of the last winter plan. But that doesn't mean to say we rest on our laurels. In fact, we start the work now and already have to review the effectiveness of last winter's plan as we start to prepare almost immediately for next winter. So there's no gap in the planning around that. As Michelle says, we have had a rise over the last sort of 3 weeks in COVID positive cases in our inpatients. In fact, we reached a high of 19 cases all told last Monday. So we haven't been at that position for a very long while. We did have an associated increase in staff related cases too, so saw a rise in staff absence as well. Thankfully, that is reducing now, so we just have 2 positive cases today, and our outbreak position has improved. So it did mean that we had to close some of our areas to new admissions during that time. There has been some changes around COVID guidelines as well in terms of infection prevention and control. Those have been circulated to our staff. They're very well aware of those. So it does mean that we just need to keep a really clear sort of eye on the COVID position. Our mental health demand as well has been particularly high over recent weeks. It's a typical seasonal variation that we've seen in relation to that. It generally does rise towards Easter and over the Easter period. So that has given us some challenges, particularly as we have still got that delayed transfers of care position that I have been reporting here for a while. We have managed well the impact of industrial action. We've stood up our emergency planning arrangements, our Silver Command, our Gold Command has met once or twice as well. So I think overall our plans have demonstrated they are robust, but we still keep that weather eye on our business continuity plans, have a rolling programme of updating and reviewing those as necessary. But happy to take any questions, Caroline.
Thanks very much, Lynn. Tim.
I didn't have time to raise this at the pre-council meeting, so I'm speaking personally. But when I read through the Lynn part of the report and I listened to Michelle as well. I go away from these meetings and I don't think necessarily of the pressures that the executive management team and staff have been under throughout the winter pressures, the industrial action, and I hadn't realised about the COVID. But I did think when I was reading through, my goodness, the pressures they've been under, and I wanted to say thank you and congratulations in getting through it. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Tim. That's appreciated, and I'd be appreciated to obviously the executive management team, but also all the staff as well. And obviously we've got a few staffers on this call as well as staff governors too. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. I'll pass that back on because it is important for staff to hear that from governors. So it means a lot. So we will certainly pass that on. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Chief Exec's report? There might be questions that will come under the next two items, so you might want to do it there. Anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you very much. We will move on then to the non-executive director, chairs of subcommittee assurance reports. Apologies from Stuart. He's had something happen that is unavoidable, but any questions to Stuart in his capacity as a NED chair, we will pass on to him. If you want to say it today so we can note it, we'll do that, or send them afterwards. And for any questions asked today where we can't provide an immediate response, we will write to all governors, regardless of who asked the question, with the written answer. So if I could start then with Dean.
Thanks very much, Caroline. I noticed Tim's got his hand up. I don't know if it's a legacy hand from Tim.
Tim? Yeah, it is.
It sounds like it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so just the assurance report is there, and I'm conscious that I came to the development session for council governors and did a bit of a sort of deep dive around the sort of workforce agenda and what we cover. And also this is the assurance report for those of you that were tuned into the board meeting. Will have also seen the assurance report that was presented there, but just some headlines, I suppose. So just a reminder to people that in terms of the workforce committee, we do have Lynn and Kwame and Hilary, as well as Steve, attending, because some of the people issues might be operational or clinical or process issues that we do through HR. And we have a good link across to the quality committee as well, just to make sure we get some sort of read across between those areas. And we have three subcommittees that report into the workforce committee. So health and wellbeing, equality and diversity, and medical education. So we get those reports coming through as well. And then you'll see from the assurance report there that we talk about some future deep dives. So one of the things that we try and do through the workforce committee is we look at the the headline data that we've got and the insights reports and the information coming forward. And then occasionally we'll say it'd be useful to dig a bit deeper in those issues to understand them a little bit better as part of that sort of continuous improvement journey. So you'll see on there, for example, that if we look at our statutory and mandatory training, we've got very high levels of that, but it's not universally the same across all the areas of mandatory training. So we looked at some of the areas that weren't as high, and then we started to try and understand, was that an issue that we weren't providing enough, or we'd got problems, people accessing courses, or those sorts of issues. So we do sort of deep dives in those, and we've got a trajectory looking forward around some of the safeguarding, for example, on that. And then this time around, we also had a look at the sort of leavers report, and one of the things that we noticed was some of the people leaving within the first 2 years. So we thought that's worth exploring at a future meeting as well, so we'll go and do that. And then we also get reports on health and well-being, and I know, as Michelle will often say in these meetings, lots of work that goes on, and we just thought it would be useful to understand where we're getting the best bang for our buck on there. So that difference, I suppose, between correlation and causation, trying to sort of understand that a little better. And then, in terms of positive assurances, sickness absence, I think falling for, I think it says in there, 5 months in a row. So that's a positive. And we've also got now nurse vacancies at under 10%, which I think it's the best that's been for some considerable time. So some good sort of improvements there. But hope that's okay by way of overview, and very happy to take any questions. And apologies for the duplication for those that tuned into the board meeting.
Dean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Neds to go through their sort of opening questions to their assurance reports, and then we'll take all the questions together to the relevant chair, if that's okay. And when we finish this item, we'll have a 5-minute break. Okay, thank you. So if we can move on to Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, like Dean, this has been to board, but the thing I wanted to highlight was the DMI training. That's de-escalation, management and intervention at 85%. That's a stunning performance. And we had major difficulties with COVID because a lot of this, well, not a lot of it, it has to be face-to-face. And there's bodily contact and so on. And that is one of the reasons why we're a positive outlier in terms of seclusion and why Edenfield causes us concern. That's the Panorama programme. But it causes concern that we need reassurance that all of the processes that we put in place are being applied, and we get that at Mental Health Ledge. The use of community treatment orders, that's CTOs, is reducing, and no cases of Section 4 being applied. Section 4 of the Mental Health Act is when you haven't got 2 doctors available to fill in the paperwork, but it is there for a reason. And if someone is floridly psychotic at 2 o'clock in the morning, Section 4 is not a bad thing. It's about a safeguarding, but we didn't have any Section 4, so all our patients were certified by 2 doctors if they were detained. We are trying to do some benchmarking on these stats, but we're having a bit of a difficulty. So it is in my report that future reports will include benchmarking. I hope they will, but the national team don't keep this information in this detail. So what I've asked for is whether the regional people like Ardash and Navigo and so on will share their information with us, and I'll come back to you on that. There's going to be a re-audit again of consent to treatment. That's a paperwork issue. It's not about people not giving consent, it's about record keeping. And we need to do some work on detention rates. Detention rates per 100,000 population are higher in Humber than we would expect. We think it might be about deprivation, but we're not contented to continue with we think it might be. So there's going to be some more work done on that, and I'll come back to you.
Thanks very much, Mike. Philip.
Thank you, Caroline. This is an assurance report that you've got from the meeting on the 2nd of March. It was a really good meeting. Enjoyed some of the reports. We had an autism strategy update, and we had a controlled drugs annual report, which I learnt a lot from, and also got lots of assurance. We asked Lynn to give us an update about children's services waiting times, and obviously that will be an ongoing thing that we'll keep pushing and checking for assurance that we're making progress. It's a difficult area nationally. We also, having had several reports, suggested that both social work and autism be more involved in the division's quality improvement programs. And at that time, we were obviously worried about the impact of strikes and also of agency use, and the costs of that, and whether that would impact and should be reflected in the risk register. All the committees are having a review around the terms of reference to make sure that the core rate and the deputies' use of deputies is consistent. And also, I think we picked this up at board that we'll be having some development time to look at the medicines information. As always, I'm learning very quickly with packed agenda, and but always very interesting and really looking carefully into the quality of the service we provide for our patients.
Thanks, Philip. Francis.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, this one's a very old report, but I can give you a little bit more of an update than that, because what Peter's put in brings you up to date a bit later on to month 11. So we've had 2 meetings since then in March and April, where we've looked at the year end and where we might be and where we're going. And at month 11, as Pete's reporting later on, we're on plan, which is excellent. Cash is healthy. We've got good assurance on that, and we discussed that at the Finance Development Day. Areas of concern remain primary care, which we discussed on the away day as a board, and agency spend, and both of those have got exec plans to tackle them, which is good news to have. We looked at debtors. The budget reduction strategy is on target and is doing well. And then, as I said, we had a little bit of a forward look and looked at the BRS plan for 23-24 and at the financial plan for 23-24. At a national level, we looked at pay. Obviously, that's ongoing at the moment with the original offer being rejected. And what I would say is, as a committee, we're really assured through the quality of the papers. The quality of the papers have got better and better and better, and it's allowing us to have some really good discussions in Finance Committee, some detailed discussions around some really interesting topics. So good assurance on performance, a couple of areas to watch, but plans in place from the exec to tackle those.
Thanks very much, Francis. Right, okay. Questions, comments from governors?
Yep.
I've got
Yes.
Doff and then I've got Tony.
And me.
Oh, and John. Doff, you're on mute. That's it. You're not.
I'm interested in the risks that Dean identified with regard to the high GP and consultant vacancies and the way that that's being tackled.
Dean?
Yes, I'll pick that up now. So
Yep.
thank you, Doff. It is something that we have on the risk register. For some time, we've had high levels of vacancies in terms of GP and some of the consultant staff, and this is where it all becomes a little bit sort of complex in a way. So a number of those posts are filled through agency usage, and of course then we've got targets to reduce sort of agency spend as well. But I know in terms of looking at particularly those long-term posts that we're sort of covering with agency, that the medical director, Steve, sort of constantly on the lookout about when is the right time to be advertising on some of those, when we know that people are sort of coming up. I know we've had some consultant interviews relatively recently, but there's a little bit of science in it as well as a little bit of art, I think, Doff. So the difficulty that you sometimes get around sort of very specialist consultants, if you are covering it with agency and you start advertising, you may find, if you know that there's nothing, that person thinks, well, if they're looking to fill that post, I may move on. So that there is a little bit of balance in terms of there, but we do keep it active on the risk register as well and keep an eye on what it is that we're doing and whether we've got the right level of trying to resolve that issue. I don't know if that answers it specifically. I wish there was a way we could just magic up that for people to come, but yes.
Thumbs up there. Thanks, Doff, for the question. Tony?
I have two questions. Mike, first one is about Mental Health Legislation Committee, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, about this issue about the number of detentions in Hull. And I thought the report was quite interesting where it said it could be a number of factors such as high deprivation. Now, that to me raises the fact we don't know. It could be linked to, could be a high number of detentions linked to, say, ethnicity. So my question is really how are we going to establish, why this is the case? Are there any plans for an audit? Is it a quality improvement project? I just wonder, what the plan is, please.
Mike?
Yeah, let's start off with ethnicity. We know it's not ethnicity.
Okay.
Except that the ethnicity gradings don't take account of, for example, a high number of Eastern Europeans. So we're doing some work on Eastern Europeans because that's not within the general tick boxes that you get. And the other thing we'll be doing is we're looking at some of the social factors with our client group as far as we can. But I'm really looking to the steering group to provide the silver bullet on this and to drill right down to operational frontline level to try and get some information. We can't get it in terms of national statistics and drilling down into how different sections are used. Our regional partners may be able to advise us, but I think it's one of those that really concerns me because we don't know, and I don't know how to make us know. I know we can do some things, but I don't know what we can do. Will might have some ideas, I don't know. Okay. But don't think by this that we're way off the scale. We're not.
Right.
We're just not where we want to be.
Okay, and will we have some feedback in the future then, please, Mike?
Yeah. Next mental health ledge will be May. Will be in a couple of weeks' time. I would have thought that by the autumn we will have something to say about it at least, even if it's to say we still don't know.
Okay.
And it will come
That's
back.
really
It will come
Thank you.
back via board as well.
Yeah,
Any
it will,
reports
yeah.
on that?
That's good. Thanks. My second question is for Stuart, and it's the audit committee. I noticed that waivers, single tender waiver controls continue to operate. Waivers totaling 6.85 million being monitored. A further 6 waivers with a value of 3.74 million being approved. But it looks like some have now expired. Now that's in the region of, depending on the number that have expired, that's in the region of what, say 10 million. That seems quite a high percentage in terms of, the trust budget. I'm just interested to know, what are these waivers for, really? What are some of the key ones?
Okay, Michelle, I think is going to take that one. Michelle.
I mean, we can obviously pick up some of the detail in the private section of a council governance. Obviously, they'll have sensitive commercial information on a lot of them, Tony. Sure. And I'm answering this, obviously, Stuart's not here and Pete is with us, so Pete can come in. Just suffice to say that I sign off all the single tender waivers and they go under huge amounts of scrutiny for me to do that, Tony. I can categorically say that. And the process has significantly got more detailed over the last since I've been in post, as it were. I'm not saying there was an issue before, but we do scrutinise it. And we have got a big plan. So we've got a spreadsheet with all the waivers on, what they are for, who they're for, what the timeline is, what the outcomes are expected, what the timelines are expected, and then also what we're doing in relationship to going to procurement on that as well. A lot of it is to do with our new commissioning arm as well, which obviously makes single tender waivers, still goes through the organisation, but a lot of it is to do with that and some of the work that we've inherited that since the transfer from CCGs into the ICB. Right. But it goes through audit, it also goes through FIC. So Francis may want to add a few words, but I'll just see if Pete wants to come in first, but then I know Francis has got his hand up. But there is a real assurance process. I'm very much like you, Tony. It should be the exception rather than the rule, but sometimes it seems like there's an excess. But we do work on that front, that it should be an exception. And I can say that they are, and there's really justified reasons for it. But Pete, do you want to add anything?
Let me take Francis as the Ned, and then if there's anything more to say, Pete can add it in, but it might all be covered. Francis.
Yeah, I was just going to support Michelle in the fact that we look at this at FIC and and I'm also on audit, and it gets a huge amount of scrutiny from the audit committee, which myself, Mike and Stuart look at it in quite a lot of detail. We do question why they are needed, but there is always a good logical reason. It can sometimes be a short requirement. It could be something that's needed really quickly. But we look at them in quite a lot of detail, Tony, to make sure that we are happy that they're going through due process. We have questioned in the past the level, but we in looking at the explanations and looking at the individual cases, and as Michelle said, we'd have to do it in private, but we are assured that there is a logical reason why it's being done, and it's not a way to get away around the system. It's being done for the right reasons, with the right scrutiny, with the right controls put in place.
Thank you. Okay. And I presume COVID didn't help with lockdowns and all the various pauses that happened as well.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Francis. Thanks to Michelle. I think Pete's put his hand down, so I think, Pete, you've got the sign of approval from Pete that you've covered all the bases on that front between the pair of you. So thank you, Tony. I've got John and then I've got Linda. John.
Yeah, okay. It's just a quick one for Francis, really. In your report, you're looking at allowing members who partially retire to draw down 100% of the benefits rather than 80%. Yeah?
Yeah, let me just go back to that one. Yeah. Where are you on that one then, John? Let me just pick up on that.
Page 3. Almost at the bottom.
Right, yeah, I found you.
Yeah.
The question and concern is, what will be the risk or the impact on the pension fund by allowing people to take 100% of the benefits when they're only going to partially retire?
So what you want is assurance about protection of the pension fund.
Yeah, can the fund sustain it? That's what I'm bothered about.
Right. Francis, how are you assured about the pension fund?
Yeah, okay. We had a long discussion on this at Finance Committee. I'm just pulling my memory back because this was the January one. And Pete and the team took us through it in quite a lot of detail as to how this works. And we were assured that whilst there are 2 different dates and it's going to start playing around with the drawdown, it is covered, John. The money is there. Obviously, it's a government scheme, so it's covered through government in terms of what's going on. And we've got to think about how this works from a member's perspective to ensure that it's the right thing for them and the right thing for the system to be able to do that.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm concerned about is there could be a run on the pension fund and whether it's sustainable. That's what I'm bothered about.
Okay.
Yeah, but remember, John, we are
Dean,
also trying to ensure that we keep people. So it's a balance. If you allow people to partially retire but we keep them within the system, that's good news for us. And you'll have seen obviously recently with the government has changed the tax also on the lifetime allowance.
Yes.
In terms of that kind of role as well, to ensure, because we need to keep good people in the NHS, and this whole tax thing has been an issue for people in terms of that, and it's for me it's the right thing to do to ensure that we can keep people by allowing the right decisions to be made from a tax perspective.
Okay. I see Dean's hand up. Did you want to add anything to that, Dean?
I understand the driver, Francis, behind what you're looking to do.
John.
My concern is the pension.
Yeah, John. Yeah, got that. Thank you. Dean, did you want to add anything?
Hopefully to reassure John, I wasn't at the FIC, but I think this is the NHS pension fund looking at the notes, Francis. So, John, the interesting thing, there isn't an NHS pension fund. So unlike, for example, local authorities or teachers where there's a superannuation fund that's sort of invested and provides future members, it doesn't exist like that for the NHS. So effectively, current members in the scheme are paying existing retirees, so there's no fund in that way. And what happens is every 5 years or so, the NHS does a quinquennial review to make sure that the money coming in from existing members is sufficient to be paying members as it sort of moves forward. And that's why we get those adjustments that your pension contribution changes. So no run on the fund, if that reassures you.
Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. Linda.
I think
you're on mute, Linda. Brilliant.
I think I've missed the boat. It was on the back of Doff's inquiry about the recruitment of staff, and I was just thinking of the cost of the agency staff used, but not only the cost of the agency staff, but cost of the patient in continuity. That's all. So I'm sorry I've missed that one. It was a lot earlier, but I couldn't get in quick enough.
Don't worry, don't worry. You know, if there's a further question on that, just email us and we'll get you any further answers, you know, once you've seen the minutes, if you need to know more.
Yeah,
no problem. Right, I can't see any more hands up. No, I can't. So it's 4 minutes past 3. Can we take a 5-minute break until 9 minutes past 3, and then we'll get cracking again with the finance report and performance report. Thank you very much. Alex, if you can stop streaming, please, and let us know when it's stopped. Welcome back to the Council of Governors meeting. Before we start formally, can I just let everybody know that our governor, our partner governor, Jackie White, has recently become a professor. She's Professor Jackie White. So can we show our appreciation for having such an august
Professor of
person
Nursing
with us
thank
today?
you.
Brilliant news. Well done, Jackie. Congratulations. Right, we're running a bit behind time, so I am going to use my chair's prerogative, and I'm going to take item 11, which is Ross Woodley and Gavin Barker, who are with us today, for the external auditors to present the findings on the annual accounts, and then we'll zip back to the performance update and finance report. So welcome, Ross.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just like to take the reports as read, but just say a few words to put them in context. So our audit completion report, which was presented to the June Audit Committee, shows the issues arising at the point when the audit is substantially complete. We list at section 2 of that report a number of areas that were still in progress, and the main one was that we needed assurance from the East Riding Pension Fund audit before we could actually conclude our work on the trust. The next sort of report that we issued was a progress report in November, which was when we'd expected to receive the pension fund assurance and be able to deliver our opinion. But at that stage, that assurance was still outstanding. But no issues had arisen in the meantime to change our opinion. We received the assurance from the pension fund audit sort of late November, and then issued our unqualified opinion on the accounts on the 12th of December. And this was confirmed in the auditor's annual report, which we issued to officers in December, but went to the next audit committee in February of this year. The auditor's annual report also includes what we call our VFM commentary. So it's our commentary on the trust's arrangements for value for money. And I'm pleased to say again, there are no significant weaknesses that we reported in that report. So I hope that's sort of a quick summary of them, but I'm welcome to sort of take any questions that members have.
Chair, with your permission, I should probably just introduce myself alongside Ross today. So my name is Gavin Barker and I'm the new engagement lead on the audit. So I wasn't the engagement lead for the year that you're looking at, 21-22. That was Mark Dalton. But I am going to be the engagement lead on 22-23, which is why I'm here today.
Nice to see you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Look forward to engaging with you over the course of the next year. So thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Ross. Any questions or comments to Ross, please? Gosh. Wow. There you go. The report speaks for itself. There we go. Pete.
I was just going to make two very quick points, if I may, Caroline.
Yeah,
one,
sure.
Just to thank Ross for his work on the audit during the year end, and just to put on record our thanks to Mark, who was our previous engagement lead at Mazars. And just for the governors to be aware, our unaudited accounts went in on time. It was just the local government pension scheme that delayed it, and we're one of many trusts in that boat, and we were in continual dialogue with NHS England, who were fully aware of it. And dare I say it, I will say it, unfortunately we thought there was going to be a fix to the local government pension scheme that wouldn't have caused the same issues as it did this year, but unfortunately that fix hasn't gone through the Financial Reporting Council, or whatever name they go by now.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, right. Thanks, Ross, and thanks, Gavin. And I know from previous discussions we've had, haven't we, Pete, on the board, is working with external auditors and finding external auditors is really not always an easy job. So we really value the relationship and what you bring to our work as well, and the assurance you provide. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Chair. We'll see you again.
No doubt. No doubt.
Bye for now, though.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we'll go back to performance update. Pete.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So this is the performance report as at the end of February 2023. Like others before me, if you've watched the board video or you tuned into the board, you'll have heard what I'm about to say. So in terms of our performance report, it's a very similar position to previous reports we've taken to the Council of Governors or indeed to the board. We continue to see positive performance in our training, and I know Dean pulled some of that out in his workforce update. And obviously our key areas of concern continue to be delayed transfers of care and out of area placements, and those two are intrinsically linked. And also we've included the appendix on the waiting times in the report. So rather than listen to me, Chair, I'll stop, and I think we just go straight to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Pete. Any questions or comments to Pete? Jenny. Jenny Bristow.
Hi, yeah, sorry, my camera isn't working on this laptop, so I do apologise. Just in relation to the same problems with the transport care and the time that takes, what's actually been done about that? What recourse is being taken and what's been looked into to improve that situation?
Pete, or is that for Lynn?
I was going to let Lynn come in on that one.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, so obviously it's escalated at every level that is appropriate to do so, including up to our integrated care board and members of that board. In fact, I've been in dialogue with Nigel Wells, the medical director for our ICB, over the last few weeks about this issue as well. We raise it at escalation meetings that are in place at place level as well. Most of our mental health delays are attributable to the Hull area at the moment. So I have very frequent conversations with Erica Daly, the Director for Place for Health, and with my peers in the local authority as well. Michelle raises and flags this position. We do have mechanisms in place where we're regularly discussing these long delays at individual patient level. We are actually seeing success as well. So it's not the same patients every time that's contributing to that number. But obviously, overall, as the data suggests, the position is improving as rapidly as we would want it to. But I can absolutely assure you it is being treated with significant priority, with significant amount of work taking place. I'm pleased to say that I think we've improved the position overall, that we are now seeing that recognition for our delays, perhaps on a par with the acute hospital delays. I think that position has improved significantly. It's not great that we've got them, but we do want the place and system attention in terms of achieving them. I think it's important to say some of our patients who are delayed do require highly complex packages of care. That doesn't mean to say that we're satisfied that they're delayed, but we need to get the right packages in place as well. So I can assure the Council of Governors this is a significant priority at every level that you'd expect it to be.
I don't doubt that at all, Lynn, and I've been involved in some of these conversations, and I know that you are not alone in terms of trust and experience in this. So please don't think that's where my question is really directed. I guess we're raising it within here. You're raising it to your senior team. It's been escalated, but is it being escalated enough to a wider, almost ministerial level in terms of trust coming together to try and solve this problem? Because it is across the board. It's not just yourselves.
Yeah, I'm sure, and Michelle can comment, but nationally, Michelle mentioned sort of Murdoch as strategic lead. This is recognised nationally as a priority. We're not the only trust experiencing this issue at the moment. So certainly that recognition is there. I can see Michelle's got a hand up. She may well want to comment.
Michelle. It's a great question. It's a great conversation to have, actually, because obviously whether we call it failed to meet the criteria to resign, which I hate, which is obviously why we classify them as delayed discharges. So really, really important, because obviously patients need to be somewhere else other than where they are at the moment. So I think this is a really good conversation. I think it's as important that we maintain the parity of the conversation between mental health and learning disability delays as we do for acute. And I think we've got that within our integrated care system, which I think is really positive, because some don't have that level of parity. So we do meet very regularly now with our local authority colleagues to see how we can start to move people through the system a lot quicker. From a mental health perspective, and as Lynn said, that's got a little bit of traction now. However, it isn't all local authorities. There are wider implications that other NHS providers. So we have lots of dialogue with other NHS providers who have got certain specialist services that we haven't, that maybe we need to transfer patients to. So there is a lot of more dialogue going on now that is helping to free up some of the spaces. But it's the whole flow piece. So it's not just around how we manage our delays, it's how we manage the inpatients as well, and how we do that at the front end so that we can stop some of the admissions in the first place, which gives more capacities. It's a whole capacity piece. So there's lots of work going on nationally. There's lots of work going on from a system point of view, which I'm leading with others, but there's also a lot of information going on from place. It's through the system. I think what we're seeing is some traction. It's not quick enough. I think we need to work a lot harder, but there are beginning some shoots now, some green shoots. The other thing that we're doing a lot more work on here, I think, than a lot of other areas, is the independent, not-for-profit, private and charity sectors, which are quite small organisations, but can actually offer quite real positive benefits in relationship to some of these complex packages of care. And we're working a lot closer with them. We started a few smaller contracts, which we'll see how they develop. And the other final thing I'll add for just if there's any other comments is around accommodation, because a lot of this is to do with accommodation, suitable accommodation. So we're actually having some good conversations with one of our local authority neighbours at the moment, see if they can supply that accommodation, if we can start to apply some more staff, and that might become a bit of a national model. So I think there's lots of different things happening. Just sometimes it's a bit of a slow burn because it takes a while to get there. But in the meantime, patients are looked after, they're cared for, the service users are looked after and cared for. But we do need to move them on, and and that does affect our out-of-area placements as well. So we are looking at it in multi-dimensional terms, and we are raising it to ministers, because that's why I had some conversations with Claire, who are active at the Health Select Committee this afternoon as it happens. So we do get it into that ministerial conversation.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Jenny, for that question. I think it is something that there needs to be more awareness of. I mean, we had I had an away day with the chairs of the biggest provider trusts in Humber, North Yorkshire, and with the ICB chair earlier this week, and actually flow, and not just flow and discharge in the acute sector, but in the mental health area where it was discussed too. And it's a bit of a bugbear of mine that every time I sometimes hear opinion formers talking about social care, they often forget that, yes, of course, it's older people, but actually a huge number, I think a majority of people who need social care, housing and other support are not pensioners. They are not over 65. They are much younger people who need that support too, and it's one of the problems in this area. Thanks, Jenny. Tony.
Thanks,
Tony,
Karen. Sorry, just going back to the finance report. Pete, I noticed community and primary care. I know it's got an underspend offsetting some of this, but reporting overspend of 1.18 million. And it said it's some locum doctors, which obviously it's obviously significant. Is that to support primary care in terms of GP services, or where's the particular pressure coming on this place?
It's GP vacancies, Tony.
Right, I thought it must be. Yeah.
But from an insurance point of view, from the governors, the primary care portfolio we have now, we're almost fully established. So the level of vacancies we had was significant around some of the practices that are no longer run by Humber.
Okay.
But I think we've jumped to the finance report, Tony.
Yeah, we have. You just jumped
sorry,
a bit ahead.
No,
don't worry.
Sorry,
don't worry.
You're okay.
Don't worry.
Does that answer your question?
I lost track. I was laid back with my cup of tea, so apologies. I'm not going to let you ask
it again when we get to the finance report. It's now been lodged and noted, and we will put it in the minutes under the finance report there without breaking it. Is that okay?
Yeah, note it as a senior moment on my part as well, please.
Thanks, Tony. Will.
If it's appropriate, would it be possible to learn more about the delayed discharge solutions and difficulties in a governor development session? If not,
yeah,
that's
sure.
fine.
Let's take that away. And yeah, Michelle, happy with that?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, and
Great.
if there's any other observations that the governors want to bring to that, well, that'll be really helpful. But no, it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think it would be good around also just the patients. The journey for patients. I think it's very much about that, isn't it? Really. So yeah, thanks, Will, for that suggestion. Okay, I can't see any more hands up, so we'll move on to the finance report. Pete.
Thanks, Chair. So this is the finance report as at the end of February, and for a refreshing change, this isn't the report that went to the board in March. So this is the report that covers the last 3 months since I last came to the Council of Governors. You've already had the update from Francis on the Finance and Investment Committee. The 3 bits I'd pull out. As a trust at the end of February, we were in a strong financial position. We've recorded a financial position consistent with our plan, and we expect to deliver our financial position for the year. And our cash position has remained stable, as it has done throughout the year. And at 33 million, cash is often a good sign of financial health for an organisation. So I'll stop there, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Thanks. Well, Tony jumped in and asked one of the questions I was going to ask. So thank you, Tony, for that. Please.
Cross wires.
Two queries. One is on income. I was surprised to see the over three quarters of a million below budget at month 11 for trust income. What please is that about? How's that occurred? What's behind?
So we went into the year with an income gap when we set the plan, Tim. So back in the papers that went to the board back in May, the level of income we needed to balance the books versus the level of income we had guaranteed from the ICB was £1 million less, and that's that number playing out together with some COVID income that has been deferred in the month 11 position.
So how's that going to pan out in this current financial year? You've covered. You're okay for this one, you think?
As it stands at the moment, our plan for 23-24 looks balanced, but obviously Francis touched on it a little bit in his Finance Committee Assurance report. There's still ongoing conversations across the ICB for financial plans and closing the current deficit plan that exists at the ICB level.
Right, thank you. My second one was about the underspend of community services, bearing in mind that that's that's major where the constituency which I'm supposed to represent, and I just wondered what the underspend particularly was, because it's nearly $250,000.
I'd have to do that as a post-meeting note, Tim. I don't have that detail to hand.
Okay, that's fine, but I would like to know, because next week I'm going up to for a meeting with the community service. In fact, you and I are both there together on that. So it would be, perhaps you can let me know.
Perhaps you can have a conversation there,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah,
that would be quite helpful, I think.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Tim. I can't see any other hands up. So Pete, thank you for that. Great. And we'll move on to Governor's questions that haven't already covered in the discussion. So who would like to go first? John. John, you're on mute. You're on mute, John. That's it. Cool.
I'm here, love. I'm here. I don't know if it's the right time to bring it up, but a couple of weeks ago I asked you if you could look into the situation with the allotments, the Haven. Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you got any feedback on that?
I've emailed you, John. I emailed you about it on the 6th of April. You'll be pleased to know, and if it hasn't come through, I'll double check it, but I did check it on my system. It has gone through. I followed that up with Lynn and other colleagues, and you'll be very pleased to know that everything is absolutely fine. In fact, services there are blooming, quite good as it's an allotment part of it as well. It is really going well. And whatever's happened in terms of the veterans you referred to who had picked up that there was some threat to the service, that is not the case. It's all shipshape and going to be fine. Let's double check you've got the emails, but I did email you on the 6th of April about that.
Right, sorry, I haven't seen
no
it,
problem.
But the issue was it seems to be getting run down.
No, not at all.
I'm presuming, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that the community spend includes maintaining these allotments, and if there's an underspend and there's some maintenance needed, can we move it to?
So let me just reassure you, it's all in the email, but for the benefit for all the other governors on this afternoon's meeting, the Haven project is blooming. They are developing, and they've already got a number of different services and offers to people. And I think from what I recall from the email, some further services are being developed. But I'm happy to send a copy of that email with all the information in it to all the governors, so they're aware of that as well. Okay.
Thank you very much for that, Caroline.
You're very welcome.
The other thing is somebody mentioned about having a real meeting in July. When is that date going to be?
Oh my goodness. Hang on. I would have to. It's the date of the Council of Governors meeting in July. So
20th.
Pardon, Mike.
20th of July.
20th of July.
Fine. That's fine.
It's not a new meeting, you'll be pleased to know. It is a meeting that was virtual and is now going to be in person. So I really hope everyone will make it, and it'll be a good opportunity for people to sort of meet each other more informally.
Excellent, okay, that's fine. I was worried because I'm away on holiday in July.
Don't worry, we work it all around you,
John. I'll be back with a suntan. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, Tim, and then Doff.
Well, I was going to say, this is a new form for us, and I didn't know how we were going to deal with the sort of the 5 questions, whether Doff, as the lead governor, was going to raise each one of the questions. I've got one of the questions is one of mine.
Okay.
But is Doff going to do all of them? Or
I really don't mind how you want to do it. It's down to you. It was out of the last public governors meeting that you would in your pre-meet identify some questions beyond what was on the agenda. So I'm in your hands. Doff, do you want to lead?
I think everybody should ask their own question. So,
okay.
So we've got a question from Tim. We've got more than one question from Tony. Sharon has got a question, and I've got 2 questions, and I'm struggling to be able to find the exact wording of my question.
Right.
So I'm looking for it.
So I'll tell you what, if all those people who are going to ask questions can put their hands up, I will work around you as I see them on my screen, if that's okay. And so I'll start with you, Tim.
Righto, okay. And this comes back to an assurance from the non-executive directors. And I wondered what assurance they could give that CYPHR, the rationale of which is the early intervention in psychosis, is able to meet its obligation to process referrals within 14 days.
Okay. Now, I think in terms of NEDs, that would probably go to Philip. Would that be Philip? Or would it be Mike? I think it's really about what reassurance do you get that we're meeting our
I think that's, I would suggest, Chair, that's more a quality issue. So I would say it's Philip. It's quite a detailed operational issue, quite a detailed, well worded assurance question that's an operational question that I would say that Philip may or may not be able to answer, so I'm more than happy. Philip wants to defer it in this case to Lynn as the exec who could answer it.
Okay. And
I know Tim visited CYPHR yesterday, so I know
Tim and Stella were at CYPHR.
It was expected.
Okay. So look, and again, just on these questions, if we can't provide the full answer today, we'll write in full to everybody on the governing body. Philip, did you want to say anything or pass straight to Lynn?
Yeah, just say that obviously we see it in the performance report, but I'll pass it over to Lynn because the details not in that report, but Lynn will obviously have the details.
Yeah, it's about what assurances are provided. So Lynn.
Yes, so it's a really good question, and it has been an area of focus at the board meeting. So, and you'll see from the chart that's in the performance report applied to this meeting today that there has been periods of time where it's been above its target in terms of the 14-day standard. It has just dropped below. There are some vacancies in that team at the moment. Staff have got posts elsewhere. Actually, they've stayed within the organisation, which is great, and recruitment is taking place to those vacancies. So it's a team, a specialised team, as you know, working with early intervention psychosis. It has quite small caseloads in order that it can engage well with its service users and patients. So unfortunately, individual vacancies do make a difference in terms of that standard, but plans are in place to recover that very quickly and certainly over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Lynn, the insurance for that. Did you have another question, Tim?
No, that's fine, but I think I'd better have a correspondence with Lynn because the information I got yesterday was a little different, so thank you. Okay.
Well, that'd be great if you could share the feedback. We have got feedback forms for visits we'd like you to complete. Yeah,
I'll just put my hand up, Chair. If you can fill in the feedback form.
Yes, I think Stella was with me. Stella was with me, so she'll be.
Yeah, if you do that, we'll make sure that's picked up because Michelle looks at all the feedback forms. Okay, yeah. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Doff.
Thank you. My two questions are around issues that I have raised before, and so I'm seeking continued assurance with regard to value for money and cost benefit analysis from the investment that the Trust makes in Health Stars, Wishes and Smile. So although I appreciate there's been work going on in this area, I think there's still work to complete to provide the assurance that I'm looking for. And my other question is in relation to volunteers and the value that they provide to the Trust. I'd like assurance that we're getting our best value from volunteers and that we are successfully retaining them.
Okay, thanks very much.
I've sent you the wording of those questions, and I'm not expecting an answer at this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I've got the wording for both those questions, and I'll take it away. And of course, we'll circulate the answer to all the governors. Thank you for that, Doff. Sharon.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I couldn't get my microphone. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, can the NEDs provide some assurance as to how the Trust's processes address the long-term health inequalities regards to mental health, illness and learning disabilities?
Okay. So again, I might be able to write to you on that one as well. But what I would say is we had a really important discussion, I think it was last year actually, about access to healthcare for those with mental health issues and learning disabilities at one of our meetings last year, because obviously there's a national move to make sure that so often these individuals lose out on basic healthcare that is not associated to their learning disability or mental health, and how important that is. So that is part of that work there. And again, some of the work that's being done with Mandy Dawley and others around health inequalities in terms of our patients as well, and their journey is part of that work too. Michelle, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, no, obviously I'll let you circulate the response, but obviously, Sharon, there is a load of work going on in relationship to health inequalities and population health, both that on prioritising waiting lists, etc. But we'll circulate it through the usual channels. But what I was going to suggest, Chair, is that maybe this will be a really good discussion for a development session for the governors. I think it would make a really good time-out conversation to have, because obviously we've met with Sir Michael Marmot as well, so we're trying to do some work with their group. So I think it might be something that would be really quite useful to have at a later stage as part of the development plan. Just a thought.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We did do a health inequality session, I think, early last year at session, but I think it's worth updating because there's been more work since on that front. Great. I've got Mike.
Yeah, just working from memory a bit, but both Quality Committee, when I was chairing it, and Mental Health Ledge took a report called the Leader Report, which gives information about the lives and deaths of people with learning disabilities. So at a high level assurance, I can tell you that those reports are coming to the relevant committees.
Okay, Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. Right, for some of those, we'll pick them up and get some written answers and get those circulated. Thank you. Linda.
I'd just like to ask what work there is going on with early intervention with eating disorders, as in i.e. drop-in centres. I know that one that recently opened in my area is absolutely buckling under the strain, and that people have actually got on train to come to the walk-in centre to sit and discuss this, you know, the problems that they're having, and look with a view to actually preventing them having to be admitted as an inpatient to solve the problems. What support is being given to groups like that?
Okay, can I go to Lynn on that one? I think, yeah, please, if that's all right.
Yeah, Linda, are you talking about children, young people, or adults, or both?
All age groups.
Yeah,
not just children. I'm not talking about CAMHS. I'm talking about people that actually missed the boat, maybe as young children. I'm talking about SEED.
Yeah, so
been approached by them.
Yeah, I know about SEED. So just by way of information, as a trust, we're not actually commissioned to provide adult eating disorder services. It's City Healthcare Partnerships who do that on the behalf of Holland East Riding. That doesn't mean to say, Linda, that we don't obviously work with people with eating disorders along with other mental health and learning disability issues within our broader services. So through our community transformation work, we are ensuring that we're absolutely in touch with those services. We actually have some facilitation now for awarding small grants to some community support areas, and actually eating disorders has featured in that, so very happy to provide you some further information outside of the meeting, but we're not commissioned for the main elements of adult eating disorders.
Yeah,
thanks for that clarification.
This person that attended from Bridlington was adolescent, so
okay,
sort of in that, yeah.
So let's Linda, if you've missed it, there was circulated a couple of pages document from Lynn on our chart. Yeah, great, good. I just wanted to make sure you got it.
That referral didn't come through council. This was just the girl herself that realised she'd got a problem and got, thank you.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us. Thank you. Doff, you want to come back in again?
Yes, I just wanted to mention Will and the fact that we do have an ongoing question for the record in terms of the minutes. There is a question that's been raised by Will, and that is continuing to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's about assurance, isn't it? Around
assurance,
child and adolescent, mental health services, yes, isn't it? Okay, and that's being picked up, and a meeting has been arranged with yourself, Will, and the appropriate NEDs and operational staff to discuss that through. Great, thank you. Okay, I can't see any more hands up for that one, so we'll move on to feedback from governors subgroups. I'll start with Sue Cooper. Sue, you're on mute.
I've had horrific technical problems today. As you all know, I'm the chair of the Appointments, Terms and Conditions for the Governors. We last met on the 9th of March, and we continued on with the looking at the reviewing the pay award for the chair and for the non-executive directors. I believe Steve did present a paper on my behalf at the last COG, as I was not here, to say that it would be looking at increasing Caroline's pay to the median of the awards. If there was a successful appraisal, Francis and I undertook the appraisal today, and it was a very successful appraisal. We're very pleased with Caroline's meeting her objectives. We discussed her objectives going forward, and we can appraise you of those at a later date. So thank you for Steve to present last time. Thank you to say that we did and we will discuss that to be approved by the Appointment Terms and Conditions group at the next meeting. So it's hopefully, well, I'm sure they will approve it, Caroline. Going on for the appraisals for all of the NEDs, the non-executive directors, are to be undertaken on the 4th of May. And so obviously we will be looking at the appraisals there, and I will feed those back to the next appointment terms and conditions meeting as well, which is in on the 25th of May. So that's good timing, and we will let you know at a further Council of Governors. We also looked at the terms of service for the chair and the non-executive directors. That was discussed in Caroline's appraisal this morning, and that is one of her objectives going forward, and that's going to be looked at in detail for succession planning and etc., their times and things, because they put in an inordinate amount of time, I think, over and above the time we expect. So yeah, we need to have a good meeting about that. Stella Jackson has had a look at our terms of reference, as it was alluded earlier on, that's happening for all committees in the trust at the moment. But she, you know, I have looked at our terms of reference and the annual review of the committee effectiveness, and I will return that back to Stella. But that looked okay. Fortunately, we have got a very, very small number of people who attend our public governors. We do need to encourage some more. We have fortunately been quorate on each of our meetings, but we do need to now look at encouraging more of the public governors to attend and see what happens at the appointment terms and condition. We will need someone to take over from me. I have been elected to be chair for until next February for a further year in my role. But I am going to, I have discussed with Caroline today, and my tenure as a governor stops then. You know, I'll have done my time. That sounds a bit, doesn't it, like you've done your time, but I will have done my time then, and I do not want to run to be re-elected. So we do need someone to start looking, please, at belonging to the appointment terms and conditions meeting. And I think that sort of says, oh, thank you. Yes, we looked at our our outstanding actions, and we have completed all our outstanding actions.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks very much. The engagement with members meeting, the last meeting was cancelled. Next meeting's due on the 18th of May, I understand. Doff, did you want to say anything at this point, or leave it for now?
I just think that it's, I want to say what a fantastically excellent session we had with Stella at the development session, and I would like to think that it enables governors to really understand a lot more about how we can do our engagement work and how we can be assured and how we can ensure that our contributions to the governing body are the best they can be. We are looking at the next meeting towards our annual members meeting. That's our preparation for that. So it would be good if we could get some members who've got some ideas about what we would like to have at our annual members meeting in terms of encouraging new members to join and reporting back. And I think I would like Sue to say that my term of office ends on the 31st of January next year, and I don't have the opportunity to stand again, so you will need to be finding somebody else to take that role forward.
Thanks, Doff. Thank you very much. And finally, but not least, Marilyn is with us, and Marilyn wanted just share some feedback from a King's Fund, I think, event it was that she did with Brian. Marilyn.
Yes, Brian Swallow and I are actually now working with the ICB on a project called Good Experience, and it's a project from Humber and North Yorkshire Integrated Care Board, no, system it is, sorry, getting confused with all these boards, partnerships and systems. And it's in conjunction with the King's Fund. And what they are trying to do is to have an agreed and accepted standard of patient, service user and care experience when receiving treatment. And care, obviously, from the NHS. It's going to be, it's co-production and co-design, so it's working with, a meeting we went on, there was so many different people on it, and Brian and I we're on as governors, obviously, of Humber. They're going to do stakeholder mapping analysis, and they're going to put together communication and engagement plans for the stakeholder grouping. So it's really quite really quite extensive. I mean, they're obviously determined. What's happened is there are about 6 different districts have been chosen to do this, 6 different ICSs. And so I suppose we're quite privileged that we've got this. So we're using past experience and partners and so on to try and come up with the goods, as it were. And they want to develop, the idealist, they want to develop a patient experience product that supports existing requirements and accommodates a variety of governance structures. There are anticipated challenges, which you would imagine. The perception of the project, the Emperor's New Clothes, lip service, nice to do, soft service element. We've heard it all before, haven't we, with new initiatives. And I suppose it is an initiative that people have tried to work with, but I guess because it's 6 different ICSs, hopefully, if it does come up, then we will be able to roll it out across the whole of the NHS eventually. The system buy-in is systemic complex pressures and capacity issues. So obviously, because of all the problems that are going on in the NHS at the moment, it's not surprising that there are complex pressures and issues, is it? All key agencies and providers have different duties and requirements, so that pulling all that together is not the easiest thing to do. And all sectors have a nuanced language for delivering experience. Now, I'm sure those governors that work in different areas, we know that everybody has a different language for things. It doesn't matter where you work. So trying to get all that together is not going to be easy. And the sign-off procedures for multiple organisations and sectors, again, is not the easiest of things to do. So I suppose when resources are low, as they are now, and the pressure's high, what goes first? I mean, I've been in the NHS and this has happened. The soft stuff is first to go. So I guess it could be looked upon as soft stuff, but I suppose it actually isn't soft stuff, because it's really, really important that patient care and carers' care is top of the agenda. So let's hope that we don't lose the money that's been allocated to this because of what's happening at the moment. So if anybody's got any questions, I think I'll have to find out whether I can send out stuff to you. But if I can send it out, I'll send it to Katie and let you have it so that you've got the information, because there was a presentation, so with all the ideas on it, which I will try and send to you if I can.
Okay. So Marilyn, thank you for sharing that, and it's great to know that 2 of our governors are taking part in this Good Experience project. I imagine Mandy Dawley and some of her staff in the, doing the patient care and experience are very tapped into this well, and you're nodding, so that that's really it's good to make sure that everyone knows that we are tapped in as a trust as well, and we can think about what support we can give, and maybe it's something, particularly as we've got our governors involved in it, it is part of that engaging members, engaging the public side of things as well, which is part of your role. We can see what support we can give to you, but it's great to have the 2 of you involved in that. Thank you. Michelle.
Yeah, great feedback, Ryan. Good to have that feedback, because obviously that's what was alluded to in the Chief Exec's report when I mentioned the work. So please make sure, I'm sure you are, linking into Mandy, and then you can both both co-send it to Katie, and then it can go out, because Mandy might have some other bits that subsidize, you know, that go with it as well, that supplement it. So let's make sure we join the docs on it. But really great stuff. Thank you.
And it's a really good example of what we should be talking about across the ICS, about, you know, standards of how we look at this, whatever sort of service we're providing. And I know that our trust has got a lot to offer to that conversation. Thanks, Marilyn. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. So, right. OK. I can't see any hands up for any questions. So thank you for those report backs. Let's go to Lynn. There is a document. So I think, Lynn, you're going to give some highlights, I think, on this. And just to say as well, on the Adult Inpatient Redesign Programme, Tim and Will are representing the governing body on the stakeholder group on this area, which is great. Thank you, Tim and Will, for doing that. And I think there's a meeting on the 8th, I think it's on the 18th of May, where stakeholders are being brought together as well. And I think probably at some point we'll get you to report back with Will on this as well from your point of view as well. But Lynn, over to you for just a quick update, please.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. So I think the key issues for me, obviously, members of this Council of Governors, some of you will remember that you saw the strategic outline case for the Mental Health Inpatient Redesign Programme, which the board eventually signed off in September 2021. So we've taken advice, as you would expect, from NHS England and within our ICB as well, because we really want to do our utmost to continue to pursue this programme. So the advice has been that to pursue a pre-consultation business case is as far as we can go with this until we have got a identified opportunity to support the programme with capital. So the slide sets out the nature of the pre-consultation business case process, where we're up to with that. Alongside this, obviously, we have now made 2 expressions of interest to the National Hospitals Programme, which is the only route really to secure capital at this point in time. The first time we submitted, we weren't successful. The second time we submitted, which was for the final 8 schemes, there's still been no national announcements in relation to that yet. So we continue to obviously wait for that. But I think it's really important that we are, you know, in a position where we absolutely are as ready as we can be, that if capital were available, then we can take up that opportunity quickly, and we're ready for that. So the PCBC is very much part of that. It's as much as we can do in relation to consultation before commencing formal consultation. So like Caroline says, really appreciate the input that we've had from this group. So far, we've had really effective engagements with the key stakeholder groups, our service users, our wider stakeholders, and our staff. So where we're up to with this programme now, and that is the intent for the next stakeholder session, is we've been exploring a number of options. Those options are being evaluated, and at the next meeting we will be putting that through a rigorous sort of evaluation process in order that we can complete the PCBC, make sure that it has those preferred options articulated with the evidence to support them, you know, clearly articulating the engagement that we've had to get to that point. Ultimately, this will be coming to our board in July as a conclusion, and then from there, obviously, we can take it through broader sort of ICP structures too. But really happy, Caroline, conscious of time, to pick up any questions in relation to this.
Okay, thanks, Lynn, for that. And I can't see any hands up. Any hands up for a question or comment to Lynn? We will be coming back to this, and the governors are represented as well with Tim and Will. Tim, did you want to add something? No. Okay, lovely. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks very much. Okay, moving on then to the annual declarations report. Stella.
Yeah, I'm conscious of time, so I'll just be brief. But you do receive this each year. It highlights how we meet the licence conditions. There's an opportunity for you to ask about any of the evidence within there. And we also declare through this report about the training that we give to governors. So if there's anything that you want to add to that, then please do. We do, this will be going back to Trust Board, and this year we will publish this self-assessment on the website. But from next year, when the licence changes a little bit, we don't need to publish any self-assessment.
Okay, thanks very much. Tim.
Please, category condition G6. You're asking us to support or raise queries about the evidence in support of compliance. And I did wonder, I mean, this is how the document is, I wondered how long it would be valid to rely for condition G6, to rely on the 2018-19 internal audit programme for about the governance arrangements. Surely there comes a point where that isn't a valid one to use. You know, it's about time that maybe for the next year it's updated.
Updated. Yeah. Stella?
Yeah, we can look at that for next year. The next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stella. Public Trust Board meetings, they are there for you to note for information. No hands up on that. I haven't received any notice of any other business. Any other business? No. Review of the meeting, being Humber. Does everybody feel that they were able to ask the questions they wanted to, and the presentations were clear today? Yes, thank you very much. Thumbs up for that. Were the papers accessible? Were they readable? There's maybe a few thumbs up for that.
You ought to have heard the pre-council meeting comments.
Well, I'm happy to. Well, I was going to say I'm happy to stream the pre-council meeting, but I don't want to go down that route. But yes, you know, I don't know. I hope you're finding. I hope you're finding that the front sheets are clearer than they used to be, because we've certainly found at board level the breaking into these quadrants of positive issues for concern, escalation I think is quite helpful in sometimes in front of lengthy reports. So is there anything else anybody like to say about the conduct of the meeting, the items for the agenda that I can take away? No? Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody. I might see some of you before at the next Governor Development session, but I'm looking hopefully to see all of you here, maybe someone who can't be here today, at the in-person Council of Governors on the 20th of July. Have a happy Bank Holiday Mondays over the next few weeks, if you can. Lovely to see you all. Thank you. And that closes our Council of Governor meeting for this afternoon.